Hey guys, welcome to Code Tech Tutorials. My name is Matt. I want to talk a little bit about a job opportunity I had a couple years ago that I thought was pretty interesting. So I just wanted to share the story, get it out there. Yeah, since it's been a couple years, I don't think it's super um, critical for me to hide much of this information anymore. And it's sort of an interesting story that you can definitely learn from if you're looking for a developer position. As well, it kind of comes in two parts. There's like a good thing about it and a bad thing about it. So let's do it. So when I graduated college and got my degree, or bachelor's degree in computer science, naturally I wanted to work for some company that I liked, and a company that I had pretty much liked my entire life was Wizards of the Coast, Magic the Gathering. They make games like Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons, and I was playing a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, so I was kind of hoping to maybe get a chance at going over there, as it's something I was pretty passionate about and had been doing for, well, I guess most of my life at that point. I had also written a program called D-Empower, which I'll link below if you're curious. And it's basically a little bit of software that helps you make characters and helps a DM run a Dungeons and Dragons game. And it's just something I worked on when I was a new C++ developer. So based on that, and yeah, just kind of based on that and the experience I was getting and implementing parts of their game into C++ already, I thought, hey, maybe this gives me a little bit of a leg up. And I could have been right, but obviously I didn't get the job, and I want to tell you the story of how the interview went and where I think it went awry, because I feel like for a while there I had a pretty good shot, and then at the end I basically blew it, and I kind of want to get to that and help you learn from my story, because if you have some job that you really want, one of the main things you want to do is you want to avoid blowing it, right? All right. So a couple years ago, it's been more than a couple years, I applied to a position at in Renton, Washington, which is pretty far from me, but I was open to other places too, or being fully remote, or anything really. I just kind of wanted to join the team if possible and get to do some things over there. So, full disclosure, I had already accepted another job at this point because I applied and I didn't hear from them for many months. So I was also looking for other stuff, and I did get another position at a great place as a C++ developer, just helping maintain a library. It was like a math library. I can't really say too much more about the company because I signed a lot of disclosure or whatever it was called, a bunch of stuff. DNA, I think. DNA, that's not the right word. You know what I'm talking about. I'm basically not allowed to talk about the work I did there except in generalities. So, yeah, it was basically just working with a lot of math and matrix math and library stuff and making code more efficient and stuff like that. And I really loved the job. I really loved my coworkers there. So it was great. I wasn't exactly looking to switch, but hey, if I could get an opportunity at my dream place, then I guess I'm going to go for it. It was kind of where I was at. All right, so what happened? You're probably wondering now. Let's dig into it. So, first of all, yeah, I applied online. I sent in a cover letter. I was tried to be as open and honest about things as I could. And, I really didn't expect a response because they're just such a big company. And I was kind of a new developer, fresh out of school, not a ton of experience. But I was pretty passionate about it. And I guess maybe they saw that because I did get a contact from someone there and they wanted to set up an interview. So, of course, I accepted. We set up a time and we met for this interview over the phone. It was kind of the initial interview. The initial interview was a bit hairy because, well, there were some issues with us getting in contact. For some reason, when they tried to call, my phone didn't ring. I'm not entirely sure why. I was going through all the settings, trying to figure out why. I felt like maybe I had unknown numbers blocked, but I looked at that setting, it didn't seem to be set. So we had to reschedule a couple times, which was totally my fault and totally due to the technology of my phone that seemed to be out of my control. So it was a bit frustrating. I think it was just my phone service provider at the time. So eventually I did end up switching to a different provider, and this was one of the main reasons I had to do that, or I felt like I had to do that, because if it was going to start costing me jobs, it's probably not the best phone service to be paying for if it doesn't really work too well. Anyway, we did eventually get it all set up and actually get in contact, and we just chatted for a while. I don't remember exactly how the conversation went, but it seemed to go okay. And we got a second interview lined up, and it was with a more technical person. Now at this stage, I didn't exactly know what position they were interviewing for. I didn't know for what game I was potentially joining the team of as a software developer. But on this second interview, it was revealed that it was for Magic the Gathering Online, MTGO. If you're not familiar with MTGO, it's basically a little card game. Well, Magic the Gathering is a card game, and MTGO is their clunky old online version. There's now MTGA, which is MTG Arena, which is kind of a more modern version. But MTGO is, let's look at some images. It's kind of this clunky looking interface, but it works pretty well. They run tournaments on it, drafts, and all kinds of stuff. So the software works. There's no particular reason why the software is bad, other than maybe you don't like the look of it or something. Anyways, it was revealed that they kind of wanted to update some old code, modernize things. I think they were just looking for another developer to join the team. They were a little vague about it, but they did start asking some questions about code to kind of gather my understanding of code. And of course, I told them that I was a C++ developer. And so they asked mostly C and C++ questions. And that interview seemed to go okay. And then I got to the third phase. And the third phase was where it all kind of went awry for me. And this was really totally my fault. I should have done something different. There's a lot of hindsight 2020 moments here. But also, I was sort of getting I'm trying to think how to say this. I guess I was starting to see that by this point that maybe I don't want this job after all. After all, it sounded like it was going to be pretty far away. I would have had to fly out there. There probably would have been a final interview out there, wherever it would have been. This would have taken me away from my family for potentially weeks, which I wasn't super thrilled about, as I was currently working somewhere else full time and had a hard time spending time to begin with. And so I was in a bit of this personal situation where my family was like actually needing me. They were going through some things, some of their own things, and I needed to be there. So I was starting to get this, I don't know, like thing or thought in the back of my head, like, hey, maybe this isn't such a great idea after all. So the third part was a test. They sent this little code test over email, and I actually still have it in my email, but I don't want to show it because I don't think it's I just don't want to show their stuff. But basically what it was in C#. It was a bunch of classes and interface classes about power, toughness, loyalty, and basically the effects of Magic the Gathering. And it was all mostly empty, and the instructions were to basically fill out the classes and the interfaces and try to make it efficient and talk about the methods you use. It was pretty involved. Now, if you've ever played Magic the Gathering, you will certainly know that the rules of this game are actually quite complicated. Sure, there's the basics of you go through your turn phases, but also there's like a lot of little niche things like the stack rules, how the base power and toughness of creatures applies, and how some effects, the order of the effects on them, based on the game state and things like that. And to be perfectly fair, I was not playing Magic the Gathering at the time. Well, I had taken a long, long break from Magic the Gathering. I played a lot as a kid. I even played in tournaments as a kid. So I was familiar with what the game was and the basics of it, but I hadn't played in about 10 years. So I was not familiar with the latest rule changes, with some of the new cards, with some of the just the new features of the game and all the little things that came with the new sets that came out when I wasn't playing. So I was pretty rusty on this whole how everything applies and what some of these new things were that was in the code that I was supposed to logic and reason about, like Planeswalker loyalty. I had never seen Planeswalkers before. Apparently they came out during my break, so I had to catch up on that and try to understand it. And I talked to some friends about it, and some friends that had been playing Magic and hadn't really taken a break, and they explained the rules. And there was also vehicles and a whole bunch of other things. So there was quite a big knowledge gap in my understanding of the rules, just because I hadn't played in so long. And I will say that I was really hoping for a D&D position. I didn't expect to get interviewed for Magic, but hey, I took what came to me at this point because it didn't sound like all the people I was talking to had anything to do with the whole D&D side of Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast. So yeah, it was what it was, and I tried to do my best on this code test. However, I was working 40 hours. I was commuting. I was under a lot of stress with my family and things I was trying to resolve there, which was all personal stuff. And basically, I totally biffed this code test because I didn't spend enough time on it. And there were a lot of factors into that. The not understanding the rules was really big. Also, I had barely used C#. I use C++ all the time. If I have the option to use a language of my choice, I choose C or C++. I don't choose C# because I don't have to, basically, and I don't want to learn too many languages, or at least I didn't at that time. Now, I will say that I've used C# more since then and do have a better understanding of it. But at the time, I was not too thrilled about having to learn C# just to do one code test. I was just already had enough going on, and I was just like, and based on the kind of the feeling I had that I wasn't even sure I wanted this job anymore, I kind of just like went through that code super quick and wung it. I actually looked at it a couple days ago because I was curious. I remember after turning it in, and a few days later, I got an email back that said, hey, we've decided to go a different direction. And I basically said, okay, thanks for letting me know and for the opportunity. And we all went on our way. So yeah, I got declined. And when I look back at that code, I totally understand why they went with someone else. The code was really bad, man. Even looking at it today, it was really bad. You could tell that I just like zipped through it and didn't give it a second thought. I had typos. All the comments I left some of them didn't even make any sense. One of them was like this broken sentence that apparently I missed because I didn't mean to leave that in there. I just didn't overlook it very much. I didn't spend enough time on it. I actually spent quite a bit of the time before even doing it just researching how all this stuff should work and what the proper logic should be so I could try to program it in there. And once I thought I had the gist of it, I ran through all these interfaces and stuff and did a bunch of stuff. But honestly, when I was done, the thought in my head was, there is absolutely no way this is going to work correctly. I don't think I'm going to get the job, but hey, I'm just going to turn it in anyway because I'm not going to ghost them. I'm at least going to turn it in. But they probably got the impression that I had no idea what I was doing. And yeah, based on that code, I can definitely see why. I don't really have any regrets about that, though, because yeah, I wasn't real sure I wanted the job, which was weird to me because it wasn't that long ago that working for this company was a dream of mine. But once I found out it wasn't for D&D and basically getting this code test in C# when I was totally interviewing for a C or C++ position as far as I knew, kind of annoyed me. And yeah, just the family stuff was on me too. So I was really, in retrospect, I'm really glad I got the opportunity, and I did learn a lot from it. And if I were to do it again, I don't know what I would do different. I guess I would spend more time on that code thing, but also I might have told, what I probably should have done is I probably should have declined. I probably should have said, hey, look, I know we've gotten this far, but my gut instinct is telling me that this isn't the position for me. Although it seems to line up and everything, I have a lot of external. I probably should have just been open and honest about that. But it's very possible that my tone changed and I didn't even realize it, and that might have given them a bit of a red flag too. Definitely in the code I submitted, my tone had changed because the comments were not very good. Like, I think one of the comments near the top was something along the lines of, hey, this appears to be for Magic the Gathering, although it doesn't explicitly say. I'm going to assume all that or something like that, because it literally didn't. It was just like chunks of code. There was no mention of what game it was for or anything. It was assumed it was for Magic because it was clearly the Magic rules. It had, like, a lot of Magic keywords, but it was pretty vague. So another thing about this, I kind of had the thought in my head that, like, if I do really well on this code and I don't get accepted, they're basically just going to use this code and not hire me, which sounds pretty iffy. Like, why would they give me this specific of a thing and want me to implement all this stack rules if they already have it working? Stack rules are pretty simple. It's first in, first out system. If you know the order of things, it's not that hard to reason about and code. So I was kind of thinking, okay, they were talking about wanting to rewrite and update things. Now they're basically having me rewrite the whole buff system and interaction system. If I spend a ton of time on this and do this perfectly, what's going to happen? Like, there's no way I would ever know if they used my code and didn't hire me, So I kind of had that in the back of my head when I was doing this code too. And that kind of made me want to not do it very well, because I was thinking, okay, and maybe this is wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong about this. I don't think that kind of company would do it. I've never known them to be a shady company. Your opinion may vary. Some people really don't like the company, but yeah, I didn't think anything like that. But I just couldn't help that thought was in the back of my head that if I do really well at this and don't get hired, they might just use my code anyway, and that felt really dirty. So as a company, I think if you're going to give a code test, it should not be very robust. It should just be like some little things to make sure you understand core concepts. You should not be You should not be asked to rewrite the main internal structure and flow system of their main product, because it takes a lot of time. And to the person on the other end, the person doing the test, they're always going to have that thought in their head that, like, are they just, like, trying to get free work? A lot of people, like, how many other people have they interviewed and given the same test, and are they just looking for the best one or the most reasonable one, but they're not actually going to hire anybody? They just want some ideas for where to go with the code. I don't know. So that was in the back of my head, and I couldn't, like, help it. I don't think that was actually the case, though. I don't think they did that or were doing that. They definitely couldn't use my code, and part of me not reviewing it very much was I didn't want to be able to use my code. I thought that was just such a dirty tactic that I wanted to make sure or I didn't want to make sure. I didn't want to be so meticulous and spend so much time on it for nothing, basically. So I was like, look, if I'm going to do this, I'm just going to give a quick, once over and turn it in. And if it's good enough, fine. If not, then fine. I guess I'm pretty neutral at this point. I already have a great job. Everything's fine. So, yeah, I guess that's it. That's pretty much the story of me applying to Wizards of the Coast and how the interview went. I was really happy to get the interview. Is the bottom line. And in retrospect, I feel pretty glad that I didn't get the job, oddly enough. And that feels really weird to say because I still like the company. I still play the game. Alright, well, I want to thank you for watching, and maybe that'll give you some ideas about what to expect if you apply for other companies and what how it may go a little bit. You're welcome to ask questions down below, and I can do a follow-up if there's a lot of them, but I feel like that pretty much covers the gist of everything. Alright, well, thanks for watching, guys. I will see you in the next video, and if you want to support further, you can do so on Patreon. They really do make these videos possible these days. So, big shout out to you guys. I got a few special videos coming up at the beginning of every month. I'm going to be, of course, thanking you guys, and I'm also going to be asking the patrons for their ideas, like what kind of videos they want to see this week, and I'm going to try to make as many of those happen as I can. So another perk to joining is you get to directly influence some of the new videos that come out every month, and you get to get your name on screen and all that stuff, and it basically keeps me motivated because, well, the truth is, and I'll go over this at some point, I guess, but most new videos I make barely make more than $1, and that's just the reality of it. So it's actually come to the point where I've sort of realized that it's not really worth my time to make YouTube videos anymore, but the patrons make a huge difference there, because, you know, the reason you guys sign up is because I keep making new videos. But me making new videos doesn't actually do a whole lot for my channel anymore, so that might be partially my fault. Maybe I'm making terrible videos. I'm not really sure. The whole reason my channel is growing and alive is basically my CMake tutorials and my Blender tutorials. So those seem to actually make my channel grow. Every other video I do doesn't really do anything other than make me like 50 cents to $1, and then it's over. So yeah, this video here was totally brought to you by the patrons. I wouldn't have done it if I had no patron thing. I don't think, anyway. Alright, well, look forward to more. I'll see you guys in the next one, and thanks for supporting me. Peace out. Cheers to good coffee.